here we are at the conclusion of the third conclave of ABFL. I'm delighted to be here with you as we close off the day. Riz Khan is with me. Riz, lovely to see you. And again, thanks for all your great work today. We had some wonderful sessions. And of course, Resham delivered 2 great sessions as well. But talk to me a little bit about your sessions today, and particularly with Ferial Ahmadi. I enjoyed them both, but I mean, she did she's doing so much great work. Talk to me more.
Well, it's been great to come back to the ABLF. I love this idea, the ABLF City, and the fact we can get such great content from such a diverse and high-level kind of input of knowledgeable people. And I'm a big admirer of the way the UAE has put women in leading positions. And Ferial Ahmadi was a prime example of that as COO of DMC, the Dubai Multi-Commodities area, the free zone that's award-winning globally, recognized globally and multi-award-winning. And she was really, I mean, she knows her stuff, was explaining exactly how businesses set up at DMCC have been dealing with the pandemic era, and how businesses have been retained there, largely because the DMCC and the UAE and the government has been able to pivot to provide the kind of digital services and digital connectivity that businesses need to be able to survive the COVID era. So she was really smart on what she knows about that. Very, very good at telling us what was going on and how they're working on that.
And indeed, what you're talking about in terms of what we've been able to do at ABLF, I mean, just looking at the dynamics of the platform here in terms of being able to go back and forth. And I've gone back to listen to so many of them and many of your sessions in the past too, as I'm sure you have too. But it's really, it's a wonderful way that we're now able to connect with people. You and I used to just hook up once a year really to do this. And now we can do it every month. But, as you said, some great talent, some great information, some tremendous content, I think, for all of the people here who have joined us for this, and indeed for all of the conclaves.
And that's important, because we are kind of in this restricted environment physically and have to kind of distance, we can't, have people flying around the way they used to and gather large numbers, because the ABLF dinners, the galas, the kind of events were so big physically. Wonderful to get together, but that doesn't mean that content should stop just because we have kind of physical restrictions on getting together. And that's why it's, I think, very important and unique to be able to bring these people together in this format.
But we will, of course, look forward to getting back together in person again and gathering for those lovely events too, which are very, very special. But also, I think, my earlier speaker too, Wei Jin Shan from originally from China, who's now in Hong Kong and who has lived in America. I mean, what an incredible story. And, he even talked to me about how he's launched his book during this system, where he lost his first book out of the Gobi Desert. And then actually, as he said, I had to ramble around the world, pitching this book, so to speak. And suddenly he launches another one, and it almost took care of itself. He's, I think, been totally amazed at, how digital has come into its own very much and really has delivered something very special, I think, and we see it here even in terms of building a community as well.
Well, that's one of the key things. And I think that, everything was trending towards this. The younger generation is already online and digital and less concerned about the formalities that, our generations have been stuck with. So I think that was inevitable. And I think COVID's pushed everyone in that direction. Not everyone has done it as well as the ABLF, largely because I think this idea of an ABLF city and the concept of creating that feel that kind of slightly mimics the real world is clever. But the fact is, we were all moving towards that digital era. This has just pushed us faster into it, and it's good. People, we're not having trouble getting top people to talk about the issues online.
And indeed, we had some wonderful people today. We had Dr. Sangeeta Reddy earlier on today. It was just, tremendous engagement there for her. GP Hinduja, a friend of yours, a colleague well known too. But I mean, great speakers really looking at their business, at how they're driving it. And again, looking at how they're moving that really internationally. They've started in one area and really moved those businesses around. But, I love the stories, I think, that we're unfolding as well.
And the Hindujas are actually, I mean, they're it's kind of the wealthiest Indians outside India in that sense, billionaire, industrial family, and almost a sign of how you can have that connectivity between East and West, because they are essentially a UK-based conglomerate, and of course strong ties to India and the roots here through the Middle East. So almost links, UK, UAE, and South Asia in that way. So that's kind of good as well, yeah.
And with the new corridor opened, of course, between the UAE and the UK, it was great to hear His Excellency Mansour Abahul as well. And I overheard that.
Yeah. He's promised me we'll get fish and chips at the UK Pavilion when Dubai Expo happens. So that's one thing. That's fantastic.
Fish and chips.
No, and actually, what was really interesting was, again, Mansour Abulhul, the ambassador, he's an example also of how that there is that connectivity. I've worked with his mother at and you have too, at the LitFest, Emirates Airlines Festival of Literature, and he is almost an ideal candidate to be heading up the position he's had now since June last year as the ambassador of the UAE to the UK, because he understands both cultures well, and he was very good at explaining how that relationship is still remaining very strong at a time, of course, when Brexit is worrying a lot of people about, how is the UK's relationship going to adjust to different countries. But he's also obviously a very savvy person when it comes to knowing the two cultures. And I think that's going to be, that's a very valuable trait to have. So it was great to speak with him as well, So yeah, great representative for the UAE in the UK.
And indeed, we're always keeping an eye on Expo here at ABLF. So we will continue throughout the year, of course, right up until October, to be keeping an eye on that for everybody. Now, earlier you talked about how impressed you are, of course, with many of the women here in the UAE and the local women that have, earned such great positions and have been appointed throughout the country. But also, when I talk to UN women there with Zora Khan talking about, a global issue and the fact that the danger that the pandemic might actually undo so much great work that has been done, and just staggering figures she gave me. I mean, I was almost upset with that. I mean, it's really, really disheartening to hear that things could be almost set back, because I know you're a great supporter and always have been in terms of equality, gender equality, and just making sure that there's inclusiveness for everybody. But this is important that the rest of the world wakes up to this, really, isn't it?
Very much, and it's a strange paradox, because on one hand, women are known to be generally better at managing households. And what's happened with the pandemic is, with the lockdowns, is the woman's work, it's a bit like when a man retires in the traditional family, the woman's work doubles, the guy is at home now. And it's happened a bit like that with the pandemic, that, the women head up their households and are usually the ones who manage the family. They are the ones who make things happen. And I think the pressure on them has been increased because of the pandemic. And of course, as you indicated, one of the sad things is that, many of the men haven't handled it well, and the abuse levels have gone up. It affects families and so on. I'm particularly pleased that the UAE has been so good at promoting women to top positions, and we see it at the ministerial level, we see it at the functional level. And they're shining stars here. It's fantastic. Yeah. So I mean, it's a lesson to not just the Arab world, but to the rest of the world.
Indeed, it is. And I think, one other area I think too, which was frightening too, was to think about girls' education, because I think we saw so much in this. And one of our, of course, dear partners, Dubai Cares, and one of our tremendous supporters here that we work so closely with, Tariq Al-Gurg and all of the team at Dubai Cares. This is, so much at the heart of everything they do, and the support we've had here from ABLF. So girls' education, and you have a daughter. I mean, you couldn't imagine her not being educated.
She's teaching me every day, so I think I'm the one who benefits in this case. But no, it's true. That's true. I think when you lose half of your population as serving members of the community because they've been held back for some reason, it's detrimental to everyone, in all honesty. And I think that countries are wising up to that. So I think the role women have played, I'm glad there's more equality, more equity in pay, for example, and it's becoming more set in stone in terms of legislative correction. And I think that people are starting to understand that, there's no reason to discriminate on jobs based on gender, because you find people functioning well irrespective of their gender. And that's a wake-up call. I mean, it's only recent, as you know, that's the key.
It really is. I mean, I think, what I love about ABLF Talks, we get to actually explore some wonderful areas with, very interesting people with new ideas, dynamic ideas, who've done tremendous work and who've shown tremendous resilience and who are still doing so much. So I think it's one of the beauties and one of the great capabilities, I suppose, of ABLF. And in many ways, I think from, Melanie and the team at IDEA, they're taking this on almost as a responsibility now that they have these discussions.
It's good, because I think a lot of people have thought to just literally close shop and not go move forward because they say, well, I can't have an event, I can't do this. But actually, content is more precious than ever, because people have more time for it. And I think that's one of the reasons to keep this up, and that's why it works so well with the ABLF talks as well.
Well, we have lots more to do and lots more to think of, and you and I will be busy over the holiday season here and around the world, because it's January 18th that is our next conclave. So we only have a few weeks. We almost just get a little break from this one, refresh, and off we go again. So I'm looking forward to welcoming you back on the 18th of January. So I hope you'll be joining me.
Looking forward to it.